Good afternoon. I'm John Wuorinen. I'm the Director of Admissions and Tuition Assistance here at Columbus Academy. And in our series of Zooms at noon, today we're talking about diversity with Dr. Pascal Losambe and Davida Arnold. So as you know, this year, we've been zooming around from different locations. So this happens to be the diversity office here, Pascal's office. And coming up next week, we have, just in the future, for those of you who are interested, next week we have a Zoom at noon on life in the upper school. And then we've got a week off for President's Day, and then come back to finish up the series for this year with math at Columbus Academy 2 weeks from today, or 3 weeks from today, on the 28th. So, well, welcome. And we're going to get started. If the two of you could just introduce yourselves a little bit and talk about your ties to the community, talk about maybe what brought you here to Columbus Academy. It'd be wonderful to hear.
Yes,
Losambe, if you want to start.
Thank you, Mr. Wuorinen, and hello, everybody. What a joy it is to be here with you. My name is Pascal Losambe. I serve as the Director of Diversity and Community Life. This is my 6th year at Columbus Academy. I shared a title with John Wuorinen. John Wuorinen was the Dean of Students. Yes, some time back, and before he took over almost a decade ago, right? 15 years ago, he took over the admissions office, and I was the Dean of Students, and then this is my 2nd year in this role, and it's been such a tremendous time of really growth, and the way we work together is just such a blessing to see how the admissions office, the diversity and community life office, the different divisions, our philanthropy office, everybody works together to ensure that we are keeping this notion of belonging in mind, that people who come into our school community will feel seen, they'll feel valued and supported here. And it takes more than just us. And so it's such a joy to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful. Davida?
Hi, I'm Davida Arnold. I am the Assistant Director of Diversity and Community Life for the lower school. I'm also a pre-K associate teacher. This is my 4th school year here at Columbus Academy, and I am also a CA parent with 4 students here. And I'm so happy to be here on the Zoom with you today.
Great. Well, I'm going to give a couple of kind of statistics, some data about diversity here at the school, and maybe the two of you can comment on it. It's going to be kind of clinical. It's going to be crunchy data. 46.5% of our students identify as students of color. We have 54 different zip codes, geographic kind of distribution around Central Ohio. It's 48.5% female, 51.5% male. 25% of our students receive need-based tuition assistance. All sorts of different family structures, different ethnicities, and so those are some numbers, but that doesn't necessarily really paint the picture of Columbus Academy and what we're doing here. Our diversity work here at the school has been ongoing. Maybe Pascal, you can speak to the history as well. But talking about diversity, what does it mean? I mean, people toss that word around a lot, and what DEI stuff?
Yes, thank you, John, for that setup there. In 1990, Columbus Academy saw the need to start to focus on this. We were an all-boys school, and we went co-ed, and that is an aspect of people's identity that was very important. So in 1990, the Board of Trustees moved to have a dedicated diversity coordinator at the time, and about 18 or so years ago, we were the first school in Central Ohio to form this office, an official full-time director of diversity and community life. And so this has been an important part of who we are as an institution. And people that work here recognize the importance of not only, in our mission, it says, mind, body, and character. And so part of that character formation, part of who a kid is their identity as well. And so, or identities. And so when we talk about diversity, we look at different dimensions. Number one, we are diverse. We're all unique. Our experiences, our perspectives. I didn't grow up where John Wuorinen grew up, and I didn't grow up where Davida Arnold grew up. So we are all distinct and unique. And as part of our diversity, there are certain social identities that we start to hold dear. And when I talk about social identities, it might be gender, it might be your race, it might be your ethnicity, it might be your nationality, etc. It might be your sexual orientation. It might be different aspects of who you are start to rise to the forefront and become a lens through which you look at the world. And this starts to happen very young in your development. Some scholars will suggest at ages 3 to 6 is when you start to notice your identity and the differences that people in your world possess. And so we have different socializers. We have you, parent guardians, are a huge voice in how students understand who they are. We as institutions have a huge voice in how students understand who they are. And fortunately, unfortunately, social media also plays a role in them understanding. And so it's important that if we are not on the same page, or we are not the loudest voice in our students' lives, our kids' lives, unfortunately, somebody else will. And so we work together very, very intentionally to make sure we are on the same page. We are guided by our mission and our vision for this work. And at the end of the day, we believe that an engaged learner is going to get the most out of this environment, both as an artist, athlete, scholar. And so if they feel affirmed in who they are, we know that they'll engage, take risks, and start to flourish here at the schools.
Wonderful. As I think about the work that we do, again, we have about 1,170 students. You mentioned all unique. We have 3 divisions, of course. We've got the lower school, the middle school, and the upper school. One of the things that I'd love to hear about is, and it's an open question for both of you, Davida, with your work in the lower school. Talk about a progression. One of the great things about Columbus Academy is we have 15 grades here. We're starting at grade age 3 with the Explorers program, and students mature and grow here at the school. Talk a little bit about the differences, if you would, between what's going on in our lower school, and then maybe our middle school, and then our upper school. So.
Okay.
A big topic here.
Yes. So I'll tackle the middle and the upper school. When we engage in programming in the middle and the upper school, we have a structure we call affinity alliance groups. And for example, we have our Black Organization of Students. We have our Journey 511, which is our Christian group. We have our Mecca group, is our Muslim group on campus. We have JAG, which is our Jewish affinity group. So we know that students, because of their home life and in their background, there are certain aspects of who they are that they start to value. And we want to create a space here for them to find community with their identities, but in addition, also be in service to the school and share these cultural traditions, share knowledge and wisdom with us so that we can be co-celebrators in who they are.
If I can interrupt you, that's an interesting piece, because there are lots of people who would say, oh, diversity, you're going ahead and you're separating, you're accentuating those differences by having these groups. But really, that's not what we're doing.
Yes.
If you can kind of comment there.
Yes. And an important aspect is exactly what I mentioned, that we want to be able to celebrate the differences that exist, but also recognize our shared humanity in it too, in that we have similar biological needs. John doesn't have to tell me that he has a need to feel loved and to feel affirmed, because I know that and I share that. But because of our lived experiences, we have different aspects of who we are. And if we don't learn about each other, there is no way I can learn how to support you and affirm you, John, because I don't share your background or identity. And so I need to exercise humility and acknowledge that there's something that I can learn from you and gain from you and celebrate with you here. And so we use that language intentionally so that students can feel affirmed in who they are and share that part of who they are with us, so that we can celebrate the tapestry of diversity at our school, because it is a strength. It is a strength of who we are, and how we show the narrative around that is not one, as John said, of let's separate different groups. It's let's let them find community. However, let's also learn how to celebrate the diversity that exists in our community.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're doing that in the lower school as well. The learning and the celebrating through in our programming. I want to highlight our Credible Book Project. We're working with the teachers to help them to ensure that their classroom libraries are reflective of the diversity that's within their classroom. Also working on helping students to learn more about other cultures through our assemblies. We have assemblies to share about the commemorative months, like this month is Black History Month, and grades will pick a commemorative month to celebrate and to share, to teach the lower schoolers about. So this month we have kindergarten who will be sharing with us. And also just helping, and to your point about how people might say it might separate us to be highlighting, even if it's in groups or if it's in the programming, like by acknowledging commemorative months. I think that actually just goes more towards the identity piece, because a good part of our identity is inclusion. Inclusion is a natural part of our identity. And so what we're trying to do is to remove the blocks, because once we have those blocks removed, then the inclusion is just going to come out naturally. The blocks being fear and misunderstanding. And so our programming is helping our students, our community, to learn more about each other, because then once those blocks of fear and misunderstanding are out the way, then the inclusion is just going to flow naturally.
Well, Davida, aren't there a lot of parent groups that come in and share different things with
Yes.
with our parents? That's kind of a softball question here.
Absolutely. We love to have our parents come in. I am inviting parents regularly to come in, or the teachers, so you can come into the classrooms to share about your cultural holidays or any other event that's important to your family. I'm inviting parents to come in and share, to share in assemblies. We have the students who do it. I just had a student share today about they celebrate Lent. So they shared with an assembly about how they celebrate Lent and educated the grades about it as well. So families are more than welcome. We love to have our families to come in and to share about the important events.
Well, and our Chinese parent group came in about 2.5, 3 weeks ago and decorated the whole school for Lunar New Year.
Yes.
Which
they had the fair. They had a fair for lower schoolers right after that, over the course of 2 weeks.
And they're here today.
They're here today.
To really
for middle school
and the upper school as well, which is such a tremendous honor for us to be able to host that.
Yeah, and they're doing all sorts of cultural pieces. They announced in upper school assembly that there's going to be some art projects, some I think some calligraphy maybe, and some paper cutting, and then some gastronomical adventures, some food, celebrating some food pieces, and so it's a wonderful way for the students and their families to bring a piece of themselves here to the school to share. And again, the Lunar New Year has been a fabulous success with the group. sorry to interrupt.
And one thing I want to mention that Davida has been really great and thoughtful about is in the lower school, we don't have those affinity alliance groups. We reserve that for the middle and the upper school. In the lower school, we think more of a mentorship model would be very appropriate. So if there is a student that needs a big brother or big sister to just engage with them, play games with them, just for them to kind of have somebody who is modeling positive behavior, we feel like that is an effective and age appropriate way to really show them how to navigate different situations in the world. And so I'm really thankful for Davida and some of her thinking and work on that.
Terrific. So we talked about lower and middle school, or lower school, middle and upper school. Talk a little bit more, if you would, about the leadership qualities that are one of the great things about the affinity groups has also been their leadership training in effect for the kids. If you wouldn't mind commenting
Yes.
a little bit there.
So part of a structure that we have here on campus is our United CA, and that is in the upper school, particularly in our affinity group leaders form this united body we call United CA, and they're responsible for creating programming and really thinking through how to be of one accord in bringing programming to the school so that we're all on the same page. You know, at Academy, we don't subscribe to sameness, but we believe in oneness, meaning that in your diversity, you can come.
I'm going to use that.
Yeah. I have another one, John.
Okay, good.
Yes, we're all parts of our whole, and that's what makes Columbus Academy unique. Not uniformity, but unity. And again, Davida talked about sometimes when you see somebody that might not share one of your salient identities, or identities are important, you can make assumptions, or there might be barriers like fear and misunderstanding. Maybe there are narratives that people might have in their minds, but we believe that through relationship, through connection, human connection is where those walls start to break down. And our United CA is an entity that does that, and they host different events throughout the year to making sure that we're engaging on that human level so that we can really be united here at the school.
That's great. And they've actually presented to the Board of Trustees, I think.
Right.
I mean, it's very impressive, the kids. In addition, there are some parental groups, I believe.
Yes.
Can you guys talk about those?
Oh.
You okay? Yes. Okay.
I'm not sure.
We have a robust parent guardian affinity group, and they are open groups to anybody who wants to join. If you're a friend or have wanting to support those groups in any way, you're very welcome. And our groups are Mosaic, which is our African American parent group. In fact, in a few weeks, they'll be hosting a celebration of the African arts for Black History Month. We have our Ola group, which is our Hispanic and Latinx group. We have CAPSA, which is our South Asian parent group, and then the Chinese Parents Association. We also have United, which is anybody who wants to engage in this work alongside the affinity groups can fall under that big banner of United. And if you're somebody who loves to pursue education in this field of diversity and inclusion, we have the SEED program, which is led by parent guardians, where they engage with books and articles. And one of the recent forums they had was on neurodiversity, because we're very intentional about bringing multiple aspects of diversity. We know that in today's age, that a lot of students, a lot of parent guardians are neurodiverse. They might not be what you would consider a typical learner, maybe ADHD, maybe they are dyslexic in some way or another. And so we have a very robust support services program, but we want to be a community that's always willing to educate ourselves on how to parent kids. We have experts here who can allow us to gain knowledge on how to parent kids who might not be on the typical developmental track. and how to build a community of support around that too. So that was kind of the focus point for Seed, and it was well attended and very, very robust. And now they're reading another book. I've forgotten the title, but yeah.
Yeah, and SEED stands for Seeking Educational Equity and Diversity.
Yes.
And we've had there is a parent seed group. There's also a faculty seed group here, and the faculty seed group has been going on. I remember probably late 80s, maybe early 90s. It's been going on for that long. So again, trying to make sure that the faculty is understanding how wonderfully diverse the world is.
Right.
When I was a student here, I graduated in 1980, and it was an all-boys school, so there was no kind of gender diversity. It was, again, times were very, very different. The world seems like a much smaller place in so many ways, that it's been so exciting for me to see over the last almost 50 years, where we've come from and where we're headed. I'm trying to think what else we should chat about. Nancy, are there any questions? I should have mentioned as I introduced, spectators, if you have any questions for our panel, you can put those questions into the chat. And I think I said Nancy again. Anika, who is our team member who is behind the scenes curating all the work today. So Anika, if there are ever questions, please let us know, okay?
There is one question. Someone would like to know, out of the 46.5% of students that are students of color, what percentage of those students are Black?
Sure. It's interesting. Our numbers, I feel good about the number 46.5% in terms of its kind of the quality of the number, the accuracy of the number, if you will. The interesting thing is, over my 15 years in the admissions office, the collection of data has changed drastically. When I began 15 years ago in the admissions office, we asked, along with NAIS, National Association of Independent Schools, we actually did not have a multiracial category at that point. And so your choices were Black / African American, white / Caucasian, Asian, just and other. I think Pacific Islander might have been in there as well. So I'll give you the numbers as we know them, but realize that there is the multiracial category is a recent addition, and so it's probably much bigger in that. But the groups are actually roughly split. We have about 4% students of Hispanic descent, Latinx students, out of the 46.5%. And then it's roughly actually equal, something between 10 and 12% of each of the categories, Black, African American, East Asian, South Asian, and multiracial. So it's again about 10% of roughly 10 to 11% of each of those categories, and then 4% students of Latinx heritage. But that multiracial category likely is underrepresented because over the time that I have been in the office, we've seen an increase in the interest of trying to more accurately represent our families.
Someone would also like to know how many Black administrators and teachers are employed.
That's a good question. I don't have the answer. Maybe someone else does.
Yes. So we look at the numbers in a specific way. For example, we are 18% faculty staff of color, and administrators actually, we did this calculation the other day, we're around 29 to 30% of our administrations are administrators of color. When we look specifically at the Black population, I think our number is about 9% of that is faculty staff that identify as Black African American. And so as far as administrators go, I need to look at those numbers again, but overall, about 30% identify as administrators of color.
Okay. Hoping that there's a story behind, again, the numbers are, they are the numbers. But what we think is much more important, again, we want strong representation, strong numbers, but what's much more important to us as we move around in our day-to-day is what it feels like here for each of our students, for each of our faculty, administrators. That's really obviously where we live day to day. So. Good. We've got about 5 more minutes that we could take. Are there any other questions out there? He says.
Yes. It says, is DEI consciously brought into the curriculum? For example, deliberately emphasizing the stories of people of color in history classes?
Absolutely. I think we did a few years ago, our history department especially, and our English department looked at the diversity of the literature offerings that they were putting forth for the students, and they have done a very good job of really diversifying the literature that is available to the students. Another thing that came out of it was that a Black Studies elective was also put in place for the upper school students to engage with. And I will say that all our faculty and staff set goals in this area of DEI, where they have to kind of look at themselves and have a self-reflective lens on how they are being inclusive in their classrooms. And we have in-house, we have about 6 dedicated specific training sessions that is run by our office and our student flourishing team with regard to this area of DEI as well. And that doesn't include outside conferences that we have, we put on, we send about 16 or 17 people or so to the NAIS People of Color Conference, which is a great way for us to really engage in our learning. And there are a variety of ways in which we sort of take on that lens. But again, in the curriculum, it is part of who we are. We are always asking teachers to reflect on what they're teaching, etc. And Davida talked about the Credible Book Project, where resources are being made available to the teachers to really select literature that is inclusive of the students that are in their space and in their classrooms as well. And these co-curriculars that we do for our MLK Day, we had different mini sessions that students could sign up for and engage with, really centered around the experiences of African Americans in history and today, and really engage in that work at the level at which they thought would be useful for them. And so I think we're always thinking about it. I think that we are looking at best practices always that fit our culture and our community. And I think we have such a good stride. Davida and I are working with, we wrote a grant. We have a wonderful grant program here. And so we wrote a grant for one of our grades to go through kind of a review of their resources to see how they're abiding by DEI standards and to see whether there are any gaps that we might need to start to fill in, etc. But again, I think we pride ourselves in having a long history, a long legacy of really thinking very intentionally about this work. That is who we are. And so time and resources are dedicated to teachers always thinking through whether they're being inclusive enough or diversified enough in their offerings. And so,
yeah, if I can add, two things occur to me. As if we're talking about kind of curricular DEI work. One is in the high school, these are both high school situations. Over the summer, we ask students to read a bit. And so our summer reading program actually, each faculty member in the upper school chooses a book to offer for students to read. And often those books there's a wide palette, if you will, in terms of those book choices. In addition, this is actually not recent, but it was probably at least 10, 15 years ago, that our English department for junior and senior year, and this is the Black Studies that you're talking about, junior and senior years, they offer semester, we call them selectives, not electives, because they aren't offered every single period so that no matter what, everyone can sign up. They need to be a little bit more selective in terms of what courses may work for a specific student. But junior and senior English courses are combined, and those faculty members offer different courses, to your point. And so there's been a wonderful diversity of offerings, and that was a really great way for the school to offer lots and lots of different choices. Mm-hmm. And again, kids are allowed to sign up for those things. Right. So
we have one more question.
Okay, this will be the last one, and then we'll sign off. But great.
So I want to know what foreign exchange programs are offered that would provide learning of other cultures and experiences.
Well, I'll take that one. We don't have a specific company or American AFS, American Field Service, or anything like that we subscribe to. It's about 2 students every 3 years will choose to travel abroad, maybe for a semester, maybe for a full year, but go to Spain, go to Switzerland. We've had people go do a semester at sea, Spain, Switzerland. We had actually several years ago, we had a boy go to China for his junior year. COVID was very complicated for this, and we had a couple of students who ended up wanting to go but did not. So it's not a formalized program, but we are very interested in supporting children who are interested in those sorts of experiences.
I just want to make sure I look at that number. Forgive my phone about faculty and staff of color. I have it here, so I know this is going to be recorded, so I don't want to miss it.
Well, in that case, I'm going to go ahead and just remind people, thank you very much for coming. We very much appreciate your interest in Columbus Academy. The reason that we offer the Zooms at noon is we think that the closer you look at Columbus Academy, the more you'll be excited and interested in joining the community. It's a wonderfully inclusive community that does celebrate all of our differences, and it's a pretty exciting world. Next week we have the Upper School Life with Corey Izakaitis, Matt Thompson, and then on February 28th we have a Zoom at noon on math here at Columbus Academy, and that'll be looking at the program from lower school up through upper school. So I'm trying to draw this out so that you can find your item. Are you here?
Yes. So I was right. 9% identify as 9% as African American faculty and staff as well.
Okay. Well, this has been lovely. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to follow up with us. Until next week, bye-bye.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.